Hi, why is it that when you're trying to heal, you feel like you're making one step forward and then 4 steps backward? Why does healing feel like going in circles? In this video, I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to share my experience with healing multiple childhood traumas. So, as I have been healing for many years now and still am, it happened many often that I found myself in a loop of regression. That's how it feels like. That you're making progress, you're having an insight, you're breaking through a pattern, and then a few weeks later, the pattern comes back, and you're back into the pain, you're back into the struggle. So why is it like this? Well, first of all, it's important to understand that healing is not a linear process. We were unfortunately raised in a society that taught us that we should go from point A to point B in a productive way, and that there shouldn't be any friction. We grew up with the idea that if we have a goal, then we can attain it in a linear way. But that's not how life works, and that's not how healing works. Everything in life comes in a cycle. It comes by waves, like the waves of the ocean. Sometimes there are big waves, sometimes there are small waves, sometimes it's in between, and sometimes it's completely calm. So it comes by cycles like this. The same with the season. Sometimes the winter, sometimes it's the summer. Sometimes you're going through an easy time, sometimes a difficult time. And healing is not about reaching a point in the future where you will be completely healed. It's understanding what causes the cycles to arise and disappear. And it's understanding that it's about riding the waves. So if you look at the ocean, a small wave is not a bad thing, and a big wave is not a bad thing neither. And so it's the same in our healing. You might have a lot of symptoms, you might have a lot of struggle. It doesn't mean that you're not progressing. It means that you're in a new cycle now. You are like a newborn baby learning how to walk. You're gonna walk, and sometimes you're gonna fall. And the goal is not to walk properly. The goal is to learn how to walk. So that's the key here. The goal is not to be completely healed. The goal is to learn the art of healing. Okay? So it's more important to develop the skills that will help you for the rest of your life rather than trying to achieve a certain outcome. Why? Because trying to achieve a certain outcome produces stress. It produces worry, and it puts you in your head, which is the opposite of healing. It's not what we want to do. However, focusing on learning how to heal, what are the keys to heal, doesn't cause stress. It causes learning, it causes growth, it causes understanding, it causes changes. Okay? So putting your focus on that will help you understand, so that you don't take it as a problem when the difficult cycle comes. And something else that is important here is that healing works by layers. So it's like peeling the layers of an onion. This is something we hear often in healing and spiritual circles. Sometimes you will have a tough layer that you will work on. And as you work through this layer, you will go through a lot of challenges, emotional difficulties, and psychological struggle. And as you heal it, it will become easier and easier and easier. And then this layer will be completely overcame. And after that comes a new layer, a deeper layer that you have not seen before, that has deeper limiting beliefs, more subtle perceptions. And this new layer can feel like a new struggle. It's the same trauma, but it's a new layer within the trauma. So you're thinking, but I'm not healing because I feel bad again. It's not that. is that now you're in touch with a new layer. That's why in healing we need depth. This is important. What we want is to go layer after layer after layer in a deeper way, so that we can overcome the trauma in its fullest. Okay? So the mistake would be to think that because you overcame a layer, you overcame the trauma. That's not how it works. You must understand that this is a long journey. This is a journey of patience and practice and discipline. You cannot be healed in a year or in 2 years. You will need a few years, especially if you have serious trauma. Now, the second thing that we need is transcendence. We need to learn to transcend the cycles, because if we don't transcend the cycles, we get stuck in the waves. What we want to do is to be able to see what is beyond these waves that come and go. What is beyond the good and the bad of your life. So when I mean transcendence, I mean being able to understand how an issue gets formed, how it develops and gets triggered along the way, and how it ends. Okay? So very often people make the mistake that they are regulating an issue. They are regulating a specific problem, they are managing a specific problem, and they think that this is healing. This is not healing, this is coping. Okay? In order to heal, we have to put an end to the cycle, to the layer. So, for example, if you feel shame, and you learn how to tame the shame by meditation, for example, you will come to a place where you feel better, because you're able to concentrate and relax and regulate your nervous system so that the shame gets less strong. So now that you're at the 0 point of feeling no shame because you regulated your nervous system, know that it will come back again, you will feel shame again. So the focus should be, how do we be free from the shame at its root? To go into what's the structure inside of your psyche that causes the shame. Does that make sense? And once we heal that structure, which takes time, the shame will stop arising. So the cycle will stop arising. And now you're free from the cycles. Okay? So, of course, regulation is very important. You want to keep doing that. But you also want to transcend your issues. Transcendence will also mean, who are you beyond the shame? And that transcendence is useful because it helps us get in touch with another perspective, which is much more healthy. And by transcending like this, we take a step back and we see how the shame arises. We realize that we have a belief that is there. So I hope this video makes sense to you, and I would love to know more about your healing journey, so feel free to comment. And if you want to work with me, all the links are in the description, and you're very welcomed to send me a message. So thank you, and see you soon. Bye.